Good evening. Welcome to the PoliticIt podcast. We've got Jayden Laursen today. Nice to have you, Jayden. So
Thank you so
you're
much.
from Cache Valley.
Yep.
Let's just talk about you for a minute.
Okay.
I know you've been real involved with several campaigns. You worked with Senator Wilson, Representative Dan Johnson, right? And even Tina Cannon as well, right?
Tina.
So tell us a little bit about you. Tell us about where you grew up, where you went to school.
Yeah.
You know what you're doing now.
Thank you so much, John. Yeah, so I was born in Cache Valley. Love Cache Valley. And I was always interested in political history, particularly. I loved history in general, but then I loved politics. And like as a little kid, I was like always building like the Washington Monument and like the White House with my building blocks, like at the age of 4 and 5. And I always loved helping people. And so I kind of related it where I'll use politics to help people. And so then I was told my entire life that I'd never make it in politics. They always told me like you never make it in there. And a lot of family members and friends even told me. And sure enough, Dan Johnson runs for House, and that was my chance. And then Chris Wilson and Tina Cannon jumped in the ring too.
So when did you start working with Representative Johnson? Because he's just retiring now.
Yeah,
right?
he's just leaving. But he was actually my very first bishop. So that's actually how I knew him.
Oh.
Is he's always been Grandpa Dan. He's like Grandpa to me, and I get called the Johnson boy still at every political other Johnson, but I get called the Johnson boy at every political event I go to. And he's just always been Grandpa. So when he decided to run for House, I slowly got involved, but then particularly this last campaign is when I got really involved in the Cache community.
Yeah, very good. And then when Chris Wilson ran, you were involved with
currently he's running too right now.
Yeah.
And so
Chris and I actually got elected at the same time.
Yeah. He speaks highly of you all the time.
We have a lot. We have a lot of in common things that we've done. So it's always fun. In fact, we had him in here just a few months ago.
Yeah, he's awesome.
For a great conversation.
Such a great guy.
Yeah.
All of them. We're pretty blessed in Cache.
So you have the connection there, but you're also doing other things as well, right?
Yes. So last year I was serving on seminary council for the LDS Church and at Mountain Crest High School. And you just graduated? Yep, just graduated. And so I had been serving on the seminary council in the church, and since then I've been doing church devotionals like crazy and different
In fact, that's where you were today.
Yeah, I just got back from Provo, and so I've been doing different podcasts like that and speaking engagements and firesides and different things like that, just trying to help the youth in particular is where I'm always kind of centered face and speaking a lot with.
So what do you talk about with like this podcast today? What were you talking about?
A lot of it is letting the youth know who they are. If I would pull 10 youth off the street right now, line them up here and ask them, hey, how do you see yourself? Almost each one of them would bring up something negative about themselves. They'd say, oh, I'm thin, I'm fat, I'm small, I'm little, I'm obese, or they would name something negative that they see about themselves. So the biggest thing I try to do is try to help them see who they are. But then, if they're struggling with an issue such as like a very common one we're seeing right now in the church is pornography issues. And if I pulled them in and said, hey, who do you think you are? They'd say, oh, I'm a porn addict, or I'm addicted to drugs. They always point out the negative. And so one thing that I focus a lot on in firesides is mental health and helping them know that they're loved and cared for, not just by Heavenly Father and Jesus Christ, but as people and individuals, that they have value in the world.
Very good. So you work on mental health issues then?
Yes, and a lot of...
You're pretty young to be doing that.
Yeah,
right?
I'm really I'm the baby of the family. That's when people ask me, What's your title? I always say I'm either the Johnson's boy or Tina Cannon's adopted political son. That's the only titles I hold.
That's cool.
And so, but I've had, because I've struggled with mental health in my past too, and different issues with the church. And I don't see going through anything if you don't use it to help others. Like, for me, it's a waste of time if I would go through such struggles and then not help others who are going through the same difficult challenges.
High school is a challenging thing just by itself, isn't it?
Especially in today's culture.
You know, this social media world that we live in, I can see that a lot, where your image and view of yourself is reflected by how many likes you get or how many friends you have,
shares,
right? Mm-hmm. And it's kind of an artificial way of measuring your worth, right?
Yeah. They see a lot of self-worth is in, well, if this is the latest style, this is what I need to do. You know, if this is the latest trend, that's what I need to do, and it doesn't add up to who you are as a person. You have worth way beyond how many likes you get on a social media page.
Yeah. Well, we're going to take a break.
Yeah.
And we'll come right back.
Awesome.
Okay, thank you. Hey Siri, how do I get to the state capitol?
John, the fastest way to get to the Capitol is to make a lot of empty promises, to get help from special interest groups and endorsements from politicians. You will also need to buy a better suit.
That's not going to work for me, Siri. You need to find another way.
John, listen to me. If you're going to win your race, you will need to play the political game. You also need to use more hairspray and buy a golden retriever. Also, a new phone case would be nice.
That's enough of this.
John, are you there? Did you just leave me on the road? Fine. Keep your principles, John.
My name's John Johnson. I'm not running to be part of a system, and I don't owe anyone special favors. I'm running to listen to and work for you. I'm running to get results. Welcome back to PoliticIt. We've got Jayden Laursen, Cache Valley.
Yep.
So you're the age to prepare for mission, right? So how's that going?
It's been awesome. Papers went in this week, and I am most likely, probably fully, doing a service mission. So I'll be centered here in the Ogden mission itself.
Oh, You think that's what's going to happen? Huh?
Yeah, that's what they have been telling me. So
that's cool.
Yeah, I'm excited.
So what's that like versus a proselyting mission?
Service mission is you get different assignments based off of where you are. So some service missionaries have a lot of health issues, and that's why they do it. And then there's some service missionaries who have mental health issues and struggles there, or are seeing a counselor that they can't leave their home, or are on pills that they need to see a doctor regularly. So a lot of your assignments, you work very closely with your stake president, because he knows you pretty good, and you can get access to him way more than you can a mission president.
Right.
So you work with him a lot, decide and work out what assignments you'd be good at, what you'd be able to do, and a lot of it is, that's kind of your revelation part, is the revelation for proselyting is to go out there, and where you're going to go is, what the church revelation is. But then service, it's what are you going to be doing with your service. So
what do you think you're going to be doing?
I have no idea. My stake president keeps jumping around on it and saying, hey, I got an idea of what we're going to do, but he's not giving any signs.
Is this something that you've worked on since you were young?
Not
this desire, or
no. I left the church right after I got baptized.
Wow.
Like I didn't want anything to do with it. Didn't want to associate with it. My parents were both active, but anytime the LDS church came up, I left the room. I had so much hate for it. And so just through seminary was how I came back to the church. And then serving on seminary council, I was like, this is actually really cool. And so I decided I'd go out and do a mission, and a few health issues came in, and then a few mental health issues came in, and then I got prompted to do a service mission and brought it up to my stake president, and he was more excited than I was. So that's how it went.
So you work with a group in Cache Valley on mental health issues. Tell me about that a little bit.
Yeah, so there's quite a few. I'm on the Suicide Prevention Coalition. We have a Community That Cares coalition, and both are focused on kind of different issues, but in overall, a lot is to help kids. A lot is to help the youth. We're seeing a really increase in suicide numbers, especially in schools. Like I was just seeing on social media the other day up down here in Ogden and the Wasatch Front how much suicides have increased down here. And I was recently talking to a buddy of mine who went to not Bear River, Brigham, and whatever high school's
Box
up there, Box Elder, yeah. And we were talking about how my school handled mental health because when I was struggling with mental health, I was still in high school, and the principal was like an adopted grandma to me. So I told her, she said, hey, you need to open up to people because of the seminary council, the political stuff I was doing, being on stage with Dan. You know, if you have a anxiety attack and get rushed off, people are going to ask questions. And so they told me, start telling your inner circle at least. And so I started opening up, and my counselor at the school helped me like phenomenal. Like it was incredible. She was always there. If I needed to talk to someone, I could go to them. They were on top of it. So I saw firsthand.
For someone that has anxiety issues, you're doing really well.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, you're good in these interviews, aren't you?
Well, and so
that takes practice, doesn't it?
Yeah, it takes a lot of work. And you know, I had been doing the speaking and the public speaking and all that, especially on those church callings. And we were speaking in 5 classes a day in front of peers, which is almost harder than complete strangers.
Right.
And so I learned a lot to rely on what needs to be said, say it, leave, you know, kind of thing. And a lot was going off the Spirit, what I needed to say in the room. But me and this friend were talking, and we're talking about how my counselor handled the situation so good. I told her, hey, there's been some struggles with some suicidal thoughts, and we talked it through. She took all the time in the world, make sure I was okay. And then I was talking to him, and he was like, that's not how they handled ours in Box Elder. And I was like, well, how do they handle it there? And he had a buddy who went to the counselor, asked the counselor, hey, I've been struggling with suicidal thoughts. The counselor just apparently talked to him for a few minutes and said, okay, we'll have to talk tomorrow and just make sure you get back to class. And that kid went home and killed himself.
Oh my gosh.
And so to me, as someone
and that's why you've been engaged in this. You want to make a difference.
Yeah, especially in schools. There is a kid out there who is scared to go to school the next day because he's going to sit alone at lunch. There's a kid out there who is afraid to go to school because she's got braces. There's a teenager out there who's afraid to go to school because there's a bully at the school or someone that says negative comments about him daily. And I was telling the coalition this week when we were in our meeting, I said, the reason I'm sitting here is because that kid needs someone to say that they're being seen, that they're not forgotten, because the youth are the future. You know, they're the next step. And if we lose them because they can't even handle their own thoughts, what future do you have, you know? And so that's why I focus a lot on helping in the schools in particular. Is you need counselors and teachers and principals like mine that, the one day when I was suicidal, I thought a lot constantly about, okay, maybe I'll take my life today, and it was a daily thought. And one day I was leaving the school. I couldn't do it anymore, and I was like, okay, I gotta go home. And I was walking out the door. Right when I was walking out the door, I walked by the principal's office window, and I looked out, and I kept walking, and all of a sudden I hear these high heels and this door just slam open. And she said, hey, Jayden, where are you going? And I said, oh, it's, yeah. And she's like, come here. And I didn't say anything. And I walked up to her, and she grabbed me and pulled me in and gave me a hug. And she said, it's been rough, huh? And I said, and I just like, yeah. And she just sat there and gave me a hug. And she's like, I'm always here for you. And in that moment, she saw me where I could have gone home and committed suicide that very night. But in that moment, and I found out later she was in a meeting.
So how do you get past that? How do you get past those moments?
Past the moments, it was I relied a lot on people. And so like her being there, people being there is, a lot of people jump out of the boat when the storm comes, but there's some people that are willing to stick with you through them. And those people helped me out a lot. Relating with people who were also struggling with mental health, that helped a lot because we were able to build off each other. And then also a lot of my faith. Faith was a huge part in helping me get through it.
Very good. So what would your recommendation be to youth that are struggling?
I would definitely say if you are struggling with anything, in particular, suicide, there's a lot of issues that you will go to buffer out the pain, such as some people are going to pornography, some people are going to drugs to avoid that pain. And a huge thing is I would definitely recommend to the youth in particular, or anyone who is struggling, to reach out and to get help and to talk to people, because it's really important that we not just open up so that we can help you, but as you open up and tell people, it's going to get rid of that stimulation that it's embarrassing to talk about, or it's not right to talk about, or that we shouldn't talk about those things. We need to have those discussions and be able to sit down like this and just visit as friends, saying, hey, some people are struggling, how can we help?
Well, congratulations on your path.
Thank you so much,
I
John.
think that I mean, one of the great things is now you're helping others.
Yeah. And it's like, why would you go through a challenge if you can't use it to strengthen others, is how I view them.
Yeah, very good, Jayden.
Awesome.
Jayden Laursen,
Thank you so
great to
much,
have you.
John.
Thanks for
Appreciate
coming
you.
in.
You are awesome.
Continue your good work.
Thank you.
Thanks. We'll see you guys next week.